Hello, I'm J.D. Clark, Wise County Judge, and you're listening to Texas County Voice, a podcast for all 254 counties. Thank you for listening.
Welcome to Texas County Voice. I'm Jody Seaborn with the Texas Association of Counties. Today we bring you a conversation recorded at TAC's 2024 Legislative Conference, which was held August 28th through August 30th in Austin. The event brought together more than 850 county officials and employees who gathered with legislators and policy experts to discuss county priorities as we approach next year's 89th legislature. My colleague Lisa Ogle caught up with Harris County Justice of the Peace Holly Williamson at the conference. Stay tuned as they discuss strategies for ensuring judicial safety in Texas.
Hello and welcome to Texas County Voice. I'm Lisa Ogle with the Texas Association of Counties. Our guest is Harris County Justice of the Peace Holly Williamson. Judge Williamson is the current president of the Justices of the Peace and Constables Association of Texas. She also is a member of TAC's Board of Directors. We're recording this episode at TAC's annual legislative conference, where Judge Williamson appeared as a speaker on one of the conference's discussion panels titled Safeguarding Our Courts: Strategies for Protecting Judges, Staff, and the Public. She's here to talk with us about this important topic. Welcome to the podcast, Judge Williamson.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
What are some security challenges faced by judges and judicial staff today?
There are a variety of challenges that really pose significant risks to the safety and integrity of the judicial process. Direct threats, online threats, physical assaults. This happens to judges and court staff, folks that try to introduce weapons into the court. Social media and the accessibility of personal information online have made it easier to target judges and their families at the court, online, and in their homes.
There's been an increase in security incidents in Texas courts over the past decade. From your perspective, what factors are driving this surge in threats?
Well, since the introduction of the Judicial Courthouse Security Act in 2017, the number of reported incidences has increased dramatically. But I want to put this into some perspective. Prior to 2017, in the data that's available from the Office of Court Administration, also known as OCA, the number of incidents reported per year ranged from about 82 to 160. After the passage of SB 42, this increased dramatically. And I don't know if there was more incidences or just this really increased awareness about the reporting of it because of the really just audacious and unbelievable action of a judge being shot in her own driveway was national news. And so the passing of that bill and the necessity to report incidences really, I think, was a driver. So I'm not sure if it was more or just more reporting, but in the years since the passage of that act, it went from, as I mentioned, 82 to 160 in those years, and then from 17 to 2023, it ranged anywhere from 383 to 588. So you saw that significant jump. Well, according to Hector Gomez, the director of court security from OCA, the numbers for FY 2024 are going to be more than 1,200 for 1 year. That's 3x times. So those are pretty shocking numbers. There's a lot of speculation about what drives that, but I think there is a consensus that the growing polarization in society has led to really the erosion of trust in many public institutions, including the judiciary. The proliferation of online platforms has really facilitated the spread of misinformation and incitement, which can result in threats against judges that are perceived sometimes as partisan. And then the judiciary's role in high-profile and contentious cases, particularly those that might involve political or social issues, They have made judges and court staff a more visible target for these folks trying to maybe seek or express their grievances or to try to influence outcomes through intimidation. And you see this from the Supreme Court all the way down to JP Court.
So, with the rise of threats, how do you and your colleagues manage the potential psychological stress that comes with the job? Are there support systems in place for judges and court staff?
That's a great point. Managing stress is very important. When you think about the work that judges do, and specifically JPs, not only from court security threats, but just in the magistration at the jail or going on inquests, there's a lot of stress just by the type of work that is included. And no doubt that can take a toll on the well-being of judges and their staff. It's really essential that we foster a culture of support within the judiciary. And to that end, JPCA and the Texas Justice Court Training Center are always working on expanding resources. And it could include, right now, particularly, we're working on putting together peer-to-peer support programs for judges so that not only do we have access to mental health professionals, but peer-to-peer sort of as a first line, and then to escalate that when it's necessary. And then, of course, we always have included at our annual trainings regular training regarding stress management and self-care, that has to be folded into your balance.
The 2017 passage of the Judge Julie Kosurik Judicial and Courthouse Security Act took an important step toward improving judicial safety in Texas. Where do you see room for improvement in the future?
Certainly, the passage of the Julie Kosurik Act was a significant advancement in judicial safety, and there is still lots of room for further improvement. We certainly could use more coordination, enhancing or enhancement, if you will, to the coordination between local law enforcement. Certainly increased funding for security infrastructure, expanded training for judicial staff. That's certainly a critical next step, those three things I would say. But, and we've also want to consider, irrespective of the size of the court, the population of your county, or the location of the court, all courthouses need the necessary fundamental resources to maintain a safe environment for everybody who enters.
As I mentioned, you were a panelist this morning at the conference discussing challenges and strategies for protecting judges, staff, and the public. What key points did you highlight?
I would say for me, the number one takeaway that I wanted to instill in all of the participants was to have a proactive approach. Implementing best practices is a challenge. It's a challenge for constrained or limited budgets, but that doesn't mean that you still shouldn't have a plan. You can't just throw up your hands. Prioritizing safety and starting with low cost or no cost fundamentals is, where the rubber meets the road. First and foremost, be proactive. Get those assessments. They're available for free from the Office of Court Administration, or for free, like where I got mine, from law enforcement agencies in my county. Once you get that assessment, that's your starting point. That is your blueprint, if you will, to get started. Have that court found, right? Organize your court security committee. Make sure that you're meeting regularly. That it just doesn't say, it's not a one and done. You have to keep on doing this. Be proactive. Make sure to create and define policies and procedures that are written down for everybody to know. Make sure you're including the stakeholders. It's not just for the judge and the court staff at the courthouse, but make sure you're including the prosecutor, the court security officer, maybe criminal defense lawyers. If you're a juvenile court, are you including resource officers, probation officers? These are all people who actively are involved with the public administration of justice and in court processes, and if they are a constant user of the court, then they should be part of that court security committee, and certainly know what the policies and procedures that you all have formed.
You actually had a good example that you implemented yourself that was free, and a few other examples of some of these free things that judges can do. Do you want to talk a little bit about those?
Sure. Well, I'll say when I received my assessment, one of the things that was noted, first of all, you need to have metal detectors and screeners. Well, that all costs a lot of money, and so the county didn't have the resources to be able to provide that for us because it's extremely expensive. But there were other things. For instance, the lighting outside the building. Just noticing that all the bulbs were burnt out, that just to call facilities and get them to make sure that the lighting outside the building is always in good condition, because when the fall comes, right, we leave after dark, or that if you're arriving early, you might be there in the dark. One of the particular things was that there was designated parking for court staff and the judge, and the expert said to me, you probably shouldn't point out to the bad guys exactly where you're going to park your car every day, because threats don't always come inside the courtroom. They're happening outside to and from work. So they suggested that I do away with marked parking just for myself. And that didn't cost anything except for my pride of losing my designated name parking, but that's okay. These are all kinds of free things that you can do to make your court safer.
You're the new president of the Justices of the Peace and Constables Association of Texas. In addition to judicial safety, what are your affiliates' other top issues as we approach next year's legislature?
Beyond judicial safety, JPCA always prides itself on being a resource for any bill and legislation that affects criminal justice and the public administration of justice. So we're there. We're the boots on the ground. We're the first line of courts, your JP and your constables in your communities, really at the precinct level, literally. So we always want to be a resource to the legislative process. We always are advocating for improved access to justice, streamlining court processes, and always enhanced training for judges, constables, and clerks.
Why are those issues important to counties?
These issues, I would say court security primarily is what I'm talking about, are so important, really paramount importance to counties, because the safety of our judicial system, the criminal justice system, directly impacts the well-being of our communities. A secure and effective judiciary is essential to uphold the rule of law, maintain public trust, and ensure that justice is administered fairly and impartially.
Thank you, Judge Williamson, for stopping by. We appreciate your time.
It's my pleasure.
You've been listening to Texas County Voice, a podcast from the Texas Association of Counties about the people, issues, and all things important to Texans and Texas counties. To learn more about Texas counties and the Texas Association of Counties, visit county.org.